It turns out rats like cocaine. Sort of. In the 20th century, scientists wanted to study drug addiction. So they put a rat in a cage and gave it 2 bottles. One bottle had normal water, and the other bottle contained water laced with cocaine. Turns out the rats almost always preferred the drug water, and almost always ended up drinking too much and overdosing. Scientists concluded that drugs like cocaine are so addictive they hook the rats into using them, even to the point of overdosing. But then, in the 1970s, a scientist named Bruce Alexander noticed something odd about this experiment. The rats were all alone in their empty cages. So he decides to redo the experiment. Bruce invented Rat Park, and Rat Park is heaven for rats. It has cheese, it has tunnels, it has rat toys, and most importantly, the rats have the warm company of other rat friends. They also still had both water bottles, one normal water bottle and one water bottle with cocaine. And Bruce wondered, what would Rat Park rats do? Here's the fascinating thing. The rats in Rat Park didn't use the drug water. And if they did use it, they didn't overdose. These rats would maybe try it a few times, but that's it. In the first experiment, almost 100% of the rats overdosed. But in Rat Park, almost none of them do. Bruce Alexander's Rat Park casts some doubt on the idea that drug addiction is caused merely by physiological hooks from chemicals. Maybe addiction occurs in the absence of community and relationships. But then again, humans aren't rats. Is there a similar experiment we could look to in humans to test this theory? The Archives of General Psychiatry conducted a detailed study of soldiers who returned from the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, many soldiers took to alcohol, heroin, and other drugs. The concern at the time was that these thousands of soldiers would return home and still have these addictions. People were concerned about the impact these thousands of veteran junkies would have on the nation. But it turns out 95% of the soldiers who used drugs overseas did not continue using when they returned home. Back with their families and communities, it seems that the addictions did not have a hold on them. In the early 2000s, Portugal decided to decriminalize all drugs and redirect government funding from cutting off and isolating addicts into programs that aimed to reconnect them to society. Instead of using the old model of addiction hooks, they tried something that was less focused on the body and more focused on relationships, responsibility, and community. The results were a 50% decrease in drug use in Portugal, and the cases of overdosing are down. Johann Hari wrote a whole book about this development in the science of addiction. He concluded his book by saying, "The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection." Usually when we think about illness or the physical well-being of our loved ones, it makes sense to focus on the body. But some doctors and scientists have begun expanding research in these other areas to take into account more than just bodily treatments, but mental and social treatments as well. We've since learned that loneliness may be a greater risk factor for your health than smoking or not exercising. The Journal of Neurology, Neurosurgery, and Psychiatry found that older adults who lived alone and were no longer married were 70 to 80% more likely to develop dementia than those who were married or lived with others. Numerous recent studies have linked loneliness with both poor health and early death. Analyzing data from the National Institute on Aging's Health and Retirement Study in the Archives of Internal Medicine, geriatrician Carla Perissinotto of the University of California, San Francisco found that adults aged 60 or older who identified themselves as lonely were 59% more likely to experience decline in their ability to perform daily activities and had a 45% higher likelihood of dying. Knowing this, it's no surprise that pessimism, hostility, and similar traits are associated with higher levels of stress and inflammation, now understood to be a shared biochemical foundation of many chronic illnesses. But maybe in the face of severe illness or suffering, we need more than just physical help. Maybe we need something deeper.
This is the Catechism of the Catholic Church. It's the official summary written by the Church of everything Catholics believe. But if the contents of this catechism are unlocked, it can change the world. We believe the Catechism isn't a dry, dusty textbook. It's a gift. It's the faithful echo of a God who desires to reveal himself to us. We're creating content that's relevant, watchable, the type of content you want to share with your friends. And all of this will be free to the world and translated into multiple languages.
Relationships are that way for sure. It's about getting to know someone and then trusting that person.
Relaciones son así. Se trata de conocer a alguien y luego confiar en ese.
Dépendait fréquemment de la foi des gens en lui et en son pouvoir.
Dependia da fé nas pessoas nele. Jesus também foi modelo de fé porque confiou.
We're transforming the letter into a living voice for the modern world. We're creating videos, stories, animations, podcasts, social media. We're creating content that's relevant, watchable, the type of content you want to share with your friends. To help people fall in love with the Catechism, the Church, and the heart of the Catechism, Jesus. Join us and help unlock the Catechism for the world. Join in the project to retransform the letter into a living voice.